Hello, this is Haja Asifullah, lecturer in chemistry, Government Degree College, Palakuma, Hyderabad. Today, we will continue D block elements. That is chemistry of D block elements. It's part 2, our second lesson. We will continue from the last lesson in which we were discussing about the characteristic properties of D block elements, in which we were dealing with magnetic properties of D block elements. Today we will continue the same, but we have to recall those things because it is a new session. First, what is magnetic property of an element or compound, that is substance? Magnetic property is nothing but a property by which a substance is either attracted towards the magnet or repelled. In short, we can say that it is either repulsion or attraction towards the magnet. Then the magnetic property of a substance depends on the paired or unpaired electrons. Atoms or molecules of substances may contain paired electrons or unpaired electrons in them. Means either all electrons are paired, no unpaired electron is available in the atom or molecule of a substance, or sometimes at least one unpaired electron is there, one or more. On the basis of this, we can divide the substances into diamagnetic, paramagnetic substances, and ferromagnetic substances, etc. According to modern electronic theory, to explain the magnetism, the theory says that when electrons present in an orbital of an atom or molecule spins on its own axis, it produces magnetic moment. We all know that electrons spin on their own axis in the atom. Now, because electrons produce magnetic moment when they spin, we may have a condition that an orbital may have two electrons, or a completely filled orbital, or two electrons of same orbital will produce same magnetic momentum of same magnitude with opposite signs, because the electrons belong to same orbital, so they produce same amount of magnetic momentum, but the sign is opposite. One is in with plus sign, the other with minus sign. As a result, the resultant magnetic moment of that atom or molecule will be zero. Therefore, all paired electrons, for all paired electrons, resultant magnetic moment, magnetic moment is zero. Hence, for the atoms or molecules which all electrons are paired, the resultant magnetic moment will be zero. So the substances may have zero resultant magnetic moment. But In other case, if atoms or molecules of a substance contains at least one electron which is unpaired, then its magnetic moment will not be zero. Means some magnetic moment will be there. So the resultant magnetic moment of atoms or molecules having unpaired electrons will never be equal to zero. Now, the magnetic momentum depends here on the number of unpaired electrons. As the number of unpaired electrons in an atom increases, the amount or magnitude of magnetic moment will be increasing. So the substance which has at least one electron unpaired will never be having zero magnetic momentum as a resultant. So we have different types of substances on the basis of magnetic properties. Let us first take diamagnetic substance. It is a substance which has all paired electrons in their atoms or ions or molecules. First thing to remember about the diamagnetic substance is it will have all paired electrons in their atoms or molecules or ions. These substances repel in the external magnetic field. That means when they are placed in external magnetic field, they will be repelled. Second is paramagnetic substances. These substances possess at least one unpaired electron in their atoms or molecules or ions. Therefore, their resultant magnetic moment will not be equal to zero. Third point is these substances are attracted in external magnetic field. That means when paramagnetic substance is placed in external magnetic field, they are repelled. So examples of diamagnetic substances may be zinc, cadmium, mercury in their elemental form. Means these three elements in D block elements or metals, we have three elements: zinc, cadmium, and mercury. This is from second B group. All will have all paired electrons in their atoms, therefore they are diamagnetic in nature. Similarly, ions like Sc plus 3, Fe, Cu plus, and Cu2 plus, Sc3 plus, Cu plus, and Zn2 plus also will have no unpaired electrons. Sc3 plus, Cu plus, Zn2 plus. These three ions I am quoting here have no unpaired electrons. Therefore, these ions are also diamagnetic in nature. Whereas the other ions which have unpaired electrons like titanium 3 plus, vanadium 2 plus, or chromium 3 plus, Mn2 plus, ferric ion, that is Fe3 plus, ferrous ion, that is Fe2 plus, or Cu2 plus, etc., which have unpaired electrons, are paramagnetic in their nature. Here, the third type of substances are called ferromagnetic substances. on the basis of magnetic properties. The third type is ferromagnetic. These are the substances which, like paramagnetic substances, will have unpaired electrons in their atoms or ions or molecules. First thing. Second thing, the resultant magnetic moment will not be zero. Third, very important property or feature of this class of substances is their magnetic moment will increase to millions of times when they are placed in the external magnetic field. And these substances are also attracted towards external magnetic field. So ferromagnetic substances are attracted towards the external magnetic field, and also their internal magnetic moment will increase millions of times. Elements like iron, cobalt, nickel, etc. are the examples of ferromagnetic substances. As we discuss the calculation or how to calculate the magnetic momentum of a substance or element in the last class, again I am repeating here briefly. The magnetic moment mu of a substance is given by under root n into n plus 2. Here n is number of unpaired electrons present in the atom or ion or molecule of the substance. It may be element or compound. And the units of mu are Bohr magnetons. If we consider a simple example in which one unpaired electron is present, only one unpaired electron is present in the atom or ion or molecule of a substance, then if you substitute 1 in place of n, we will be having root 3, and the value of root 3 is 1.732. Therefore, the value of magnetic moment for a substance with one single unpaired electron is about 1.732. It is calculated one, Bohr magneton. Experimentally, we will be having nearly equal to that. For example, in the case of titanium 3, there is one unpaired electron, and the value for mu is 1.75. So it is nearly equal to 1.732 Bohr magneton. As I told you, the value of mu increases with increasing number of unpaired electrons. So it will be 2.75 if n is equal to 2. In some ions where n is equal to 3, it is about 3.8. In this way, it increases. So the value of mu, that is magnetic moment, increases with increase in number of unpaired electrons. It is clearly given in the table. For n is equal to 1, it is 1.75. For n is equal to 2, it is 2.75. N is equal to 3, 3.8. N is equal to 4, it is 5.1. And n is equal to 5, it is 5.96. So it is increasing from 1.7 to nearly 6. The next property of d block elements is called catalytic property or catalytic activity. To understand this, first we have to understand the term catalyst. What is catalyst? Catalyst is a substance. Maybe it is an element or compound which enhances the rate of reaction when added to the reactants. Generally, it do not take part in the reaction. Even if it do so, it will get separated at the end or just before the end of the reaction. So the catalyst is a substance which enhances or increases the rate of reaction. These elements, which are called D block elements, are metals and they possess catalytic activity or catalytic property. Hence, these are used as catalyst. Most of the D block elements like vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, and many generally are used in most of the reactions. Generally, catalyst is used or required in organic reactions or the reactions of carbon compound because they are slow or very slow. So we need to increase the rate of reaction. How the rate of reaction is increased when the catalyst is added. So before that, we have few compounds like oxides, halides, sulfates, etc. of D block elements are also used as catalyst in different types of reactions. Sometimes they are also used in lab and sometimes they are also used in industrial preparation of the compounds. For example, vanadium pentoxide, manganese dioxide, ferric chloride, mercury sulfate, and many compounds of D block elements are used as catalyst. So we were talking about how these act as catalyst. As I told you, most of the organic reactions are slow. Why they are slow? Because in organic reactions, ions will not form. In ionic compounds, ions are formed when they are in fused state or molten state or in their aqueous solution. So it is easy to exchange their ions when they react. So ionic compound, when react, exchange their ions. So ionic reactions are very fast. Whereas in covalent compounds, since they do not form ions, the old bonds has to be broken. Then only the new bonds will form. Old bonds within the molecule has to be broken. Then the new bonds will be formed with incoming atoms or radicals or groups. This is the reason why they need catalyst. And also we need to heat them so that some heat is also supplied to break the bond. How these D block elements provide the other path of to the reaction so that it completes with high rate or faster or fast velocity. This is due to the following reasons. Number one, due to variable valencies or unpaired electrons in D sublevel. Due to variable valencies in the last lesson or session, we discussed about the variable valencies of d block elements. Nearly all d block elements exhibit more than one valency in their different compounds. For example, just now I told you ferrous and ferric. Ferrous is in +2 form, ferric is in +3 form. Both the valencies iron exhibit, but in different compounds. Ferrous sulfate Fe2 plus, ferric chloride Fe3 plus. This is called variable valencies. This is one of the reasons. Or it is also called as unpaired electrons present in the d sublevel. Few unpaired electrons are present always in d block metals or elements. They form unstable intermediate compounds, which gives a new path with lower activation energy to complete the reaction. The unpaired electrons available in d sublevel of d block elements form temporary bonds with incoming reactant molecules or atoms or ions, which are unstable, and they produce unstable intermediate compound, or sometimes it is called complex, activated complex, which is unstable and its half-life is very less. If it has activation energy, then it will convert to product, or else it will again convert back to reactant. So every activated complex or intermediate compound molecule which has energy equal to activation energy will produce the product molecule, and this activation energy is less than the enthalpy needed for the reaction to complete without catalyst. That means if we carry the reaction without catalyst, the energy required will be more than the energy required to complete the reaction with catalyst. Therefore, the catalyst is providing a new path or second path. It is also called as second path with lower energy called as activation energy to complete the reaction. This is the energy barrier. E activation or activation energy is the energy barrier complete, and it is less than the energy which is generally called as enthalpy without catalyst. Second reason is the partially empty d orbitals of transition metals offer suitable surface area for the reactant molecules or particles. These reactant molecules get adsorbed on the surface of the catalyst where the reaction takes place. Second thing is there are empty d orbitals in d block elements or transition metals. All d block elements are not transition metals, but transition metals are d block elements. They offer suitable surface area for the reactant molecule to get adsorbed. What is adsorption? It is nothing but the absorption of atoms or molecules on the surface of the substance, only on the surface. It is a uni or bilayer phenomena. It will not, the atoms will not penetrate deep into the mass. So the absorption takes place. Absorption of reactant molecules or atoms takes place on the surface of d block elements, which is used as catalyst. Therefore, to increase the surface area, total surface area, we use catalyst in the form of powder. So whenever we use a catalyst. We use it in powder form. For example, nickel. Nickel is used in hydrogenation of oil as a catalyst. In hydrogenation of oil, where hydrogen is passed through oil to get heat, that is from unsaturated to saturated compound, we use nickel as a catalyst. Here nickel is used in powder form. Why? Because it increases the total surface area of the catalyst, so that more and more reactant molecules get absorbed on the surface of the catalyst. On the surface of the catalyst. If more and more molecules or atoms of reactant get absorbed on the surface of catalyst, then what will happen? The old bonds of the reactant molecules will break down, and new bonds between the two atoms of two different molecules will form. How? For example, if you consider the reaction between hydrogen and chlorine, there may be adsorption of hydrogen on the surface of metal. Then hydrogen molecule will produce atoms of hydrogen, which may combine with chlorine to give HCl like that. Or in any other reaction, if a general reaction is taken as A2 plus B2 gives rise to 2AB, then first the bonds between AA molecule and BB molecule should be broken, so that atoms of A and B are formed. Then atom of A and B will combine to give AB. This is the reason why these are added in powder form. Means the powder form will increase the total surface area, and as a result adsorption. Due to absorption of reactant molecules on the surface of the catalyst, increases the concentration of reactant. If total surface area is increased, more and more reactant molecules will get absorbed on those sites. These sites are generally called as active sites, where the atoms or molecules of reactants are get absorbed. So as the concentration increases, rate of reaction increases. As a result, it weakens the bond between atoms of reactants or reactant molecules, which in turn increases the rate of reaction. Now, we will consider the next important or very important property of d block elements. It is nothing but complex formation. But before going into detail of complex formation, let me give you few examples of metals or compounds of d block elements which are generally used as catalyst in different reactions. For example, TiCl4 titanium chloride is used as a catalyst in the production of polythene. It is also called as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. Ziegler-Natta catalyst is nothing but TiCl4. It is used to produce polythene. What is polythene? Actually, polythene is a polymeric reaction in which many molecules of ethene or ethylene are added to each other to form a giant molecule called as polythene, or it is a polymer. So in polymerization of ethene, we use TiCl4, which is also called as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. And you know that manganese dioxide acts as catalyst in the decomposition of KClO3. It is also again a simple and familiar reaction in which on decomposition of KClO3 potassium chloride we get oxygen. So the reaction will be KClO3 gives rise to KClO plus O2, in which manganese dioxide is acting as catalyst. So in the first example, titanium, second is manganese, both are from D block element. One more, iron is used as catalyst in the manufacture of ammonia by Haber process. So in Haber process, we use iron as catalyst in which ammonia is produced. Similarly, ferric chloride is used as catalyst in the production of carbon tetrachloride. Similarly, we have CuCl2, which is used as catalyst in the production of chlorine by Deacon's process. And one more example just I have given you, that nickel is used as catalyst in hydrogenation of oil. So let us consider now complex formation. What is a complex? Complex compound or complexes are also called as coordination compounds. Why? Because they have coordinate covalent bonds. Therefore, they are called coordination compounds. Then what are they and how they are produced? For example, when we add cobalt chloride, we add cobalt chloride to ammonia, we get a compound called as cobalt hexamine chloride. Cobalt hexamine chloride, CONH3 taken 6 times Cl3. In this is called coordination compound or complex. In this, a metal is there, cobalt, ammonia is there, and Cl is there. We will discuss about it later. First, how they are formed. When metal ions react with molecules like ammonia, water, EDTA, carbonyl group, or ions like F minus, Cl minus, Cn minus, etc., they form coordination compound or coordination ion, complex ion, where the metal atoms are called central metal atom, like cobalt, ferrous, etc., chromium, manganese, many are there. And these molecules are ions which form bond with that metal atom are called ligands. Okay, ligands. So here ammonia, water, EDTA, carbonyl group, etc., and F minus, Cl minus, etc., are called ligands. Here this compound is called ferrous pentacarbonyl. In this way, we have many such type of compounds. Here, if you go into detail, we have different things here. First is compounds of D block elements, which are called complexes, have a central metal atom. D block elements act as central metal atom. What is a central metal atom? It accepts few one or few pairs of electron from ligand to form coordinate covalent bond. This is the reason why they are called coordination compounds. For example, CO cobalt atom or cobalt metal forms coordinate covalent bonds with ammonia by accepting one electron pair from one molecule and form coordinate covalent bond. Now, what is coordinate covalent bond? A bond formed by a pair of electron which is supplied by one atom or molecule. Generally, every atom which is forming a bond will supply or share one electron. But here, both the electrons are donated or supplied by one molecule or atom. Therefore, there is difference. This type of bond is called coordinate covalent bond, and generally coordinate covalent bond is represented by an arrow mark. So here cobalt and ammonia form coordinate covalent bond between them by here cobalt accept a pair of electron from ammonia, and in other words ammonia donates one pair of electrons. So at central metal ion here cobalt accept electron pair, therefore it is called acceptor. Ammonia donate pair of electron, therefore it is called donor. So ligands are generally donors which donate one or more pair of electrons to central metal ion, and central metal ion acts as acceptor and accept electron pair to form bond. So generally central metal ions are acids. Why? Because they are electron pair acceptors. And here ligands are bases because they donate a pair of electrons, and doing so they form coordination bond between them. Therefore, these complexes are also called as coordination compounds, and generally D block elements form complexes or coordination compounds. So to form a coordination compound, we need an atom which is ready to accept one or more pair of electron, and there should be one species which should donate a pair of electron or more than one pair of electron. In this way, they form. D block elements show greater tendency to form complexes due to the following reasons. What are those reasons? First, due to small atomic size and ionic size. We know that in D block elements, electron enter into penultimate shell. Their last electrons enter into, or incoming electron enter into penultimate shell. As a result, these electrons are attracted towards the nucleus with greater force, and therefore they have small size. Second reason for forming the complexes is presence of high charge on their ions. The third reason is due to the presence of partially filled d orbitals. Most of these ions, which are ions of d block elements, are partially filled. Why? They are not completely filled Very few, like cadmium, zinc, etc., have completely filled the orbitals, whereas in other case they are partially filled because 10 electrons are adding one by one, first electron, second electron, like that, one by one. So many atoms or ions of d block are having partially filled orbitals. Under the influence of ligand, these partially filled d orbitals will be paired and they will create vacant d orbitals. If they are already present, okay, otherwise they will create vacant d orbital due to the influence of ligand, and then those vacant d orbitals are ready to accept the pair of electrons from ligand. Metal accept pairs or pair of electrons to form coordinate covalent bonds with the ligand molecular ion. So most of the metal ions or metal atoms are ready to form coordinate covalent bond and to form coordination compounds or complexes. Here, let us try to understand few terms like ligand first. A ligand is nothing but a species. It may be an ion or a molecule which has capacity to donate one or more pairs of electrons and form coordinate covalent bond with the central metal ion. The species should not only have the capacity to donate pair of electron, but it should also have capacity to form a bond. That is called ligand. And ligand may be an ion or molecule. Just now I gave you few examples. Water, ammonia, etc. are molecules, and fluoride, chloride, cyanide, etc. are ions. Now then, what is CMI? That is central metal ion. So central metal ion is nothing but an ion formed from d block element or a transition metal. For example, again let us take cobalt. Cobalt can lose 3 electrons. It can lose 3 electrons. How many electrons it has? Actually in atomic or elemental form, it has 27. The atom of a cobalt has 27 electrons, therefore its atomic number is 27. It can lose 3 electrons in first stage to form cobalt 3 plus ion or tri-positive ion. These type of ions are called central metal ions. Then we just now had learned ligand and then central metal ion. Then coordination sphere. What is the coordination sphere? It is a sphere which has central metal ion and ligand together. This is called, this species is called coordination sphere. Here, this bracket should start from cobalt. Actually, this bracket should start from here. So the cobalt, that is central metal ion, and ligand NH3 together forms a coordination sphere. In both these cases, the bracket should start from here. Therefore, CONH3 taken 6 times and CONH3 3 times and Cl3, both are called coordination sphere. Then what is coordination sphere? It is a sphere having atoms which are non-ionizable in water. These species are not non-ionizable. They do not ionize in water. They exist as a unity. The coordination sphere it exists as unity. Then one more terminology. Primary valency. What is primary valency? It is nothing but the number of electrons which are lost by a metal atom to form central metal ion in first stage. For example, for cobalt, it is 3. Why it is 3? Because cobalt can lose 3 electrons to form CONH3 taken 6 times Cl3. So in this case, cobalt is losing 3 electrons. Therefore, the number of electrons lost in first stage is called its valency, primary valency. We have another valency called as secondary valency. This secondary valency. What is secondary valency? Secondary valency of a metal is twice the number of electron pairs that it gained from the ligand in second stage. In first stage, metal atom loses electron. In second stage, it gains electron. But in first stage, it can lose any number of electrons from 1 to 1, 2, 3 like that. But when it gains electron, it will be in pairs, or it is in even number 2, 4, 6 like that. For example, here it has 6 pairs of electron which it can accept, or it is accepting from 6 ammonia molecules. Therefore, 6 into 2, 12 is the secondary valency of this. Now, why we are discussing this is because to calculate this one, it is called effective atomic number. In short, it is called EAN. How to calculate EAN and what it is? For a metal, EAN is the sum of its atomic number and secondary valency minus primary valency. Okay? This is called EAN. And the formula is like that. Z minus PV into, sorry, Z minus PV plus secondary valence. And secondary valence is twice the number of pairs of electrons which it accepts from ligand. Now, to understand this, we will take one example. But before that, EAN of a metal is generally equal to or nearly equal to the atomic number of an element of noble gases. Noble gases are assumed to be very, very stable. They are very stable elements or gases. Why they are stable? Because they have completely filled electronic configuration. Every other element try to achieve the electronic configuration of noble gases. Here also, cobalt, which is forming coordination compound or complex, try to achieve the electronic configuration of a noble gas like krypton so that it becomes stable. So generally, the EAN of a metal will be either equal to or nearly equal to the atomic number of a noble gas. Here in this example of which we have taken, CONH3 taken 6 times Cl3. Again, this bracket should be here. That means the bracket should start from CO. So this is in total up to this is called coordination sphere. Now, let us calculate EAN of cobalt. To calculate that, we need Z of cobalt. Z of cobalt is 27. Because it is losing 3 electrons in first stage, its primary valency will be 3. Z is 27, 3 is primary valency, and it is gaining 6 into 2, 12 electrons. Therefore, 27 plus 12, 39 minus 3, 36, or 27 minus 3, 24, plus 12 is equal to 36. And fortunately, this number is equal to the atomic number of krypton. So it is Z of krypton. So Z of a noble gas is equal to EAN. That's why we say that EAN of a metal will be equal to a atomic number of noble gas, or it will be nearly equal to. So with this, let us conclude the session. So summary of this lesson, this is we have taken 2-3 properties of d block elements, which are called characteristic properties. First one was magnetic property. The second was the complex formation. In between we had catalytic property, magnetic, catalytic, and complex formation we studied. In next lesson or in next session, we will deal few more properties, which are characteristic properties of d block elements. So for today, let us stop here. Thank you, one and all.